Good evening, paranormal community, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Odyssey Files. I am your host, Michael O'Neill. With me, with new technology that is past 2002, is my co-host, Mr. David Sawyering. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Mike. Good evening, paranormal community. I apologize for the antiquated setup that I was trying to use.
Over.
Yes, it is. Thanks to a very generous friend of mine who happens to be in frame with me here. I am borrowing a current computer that that's operating beautifully compared to the piece of that I was using.
Antiquated equipment.
It was antiquated. Yeah.
It was a perfect description of that.
Exactly right.
So
Paperweight.
Last week, obviously just video only because Dave didn't join me until like 40 minutes in, and then we lasted about 20 minutes of before we called it quits. So we have moved. So the topic of that show was obviously supposed to be crop circles. And so we have now, since it's the Halloween season, we have moved that to November because we have a series of shows primed for the holiday season for everybody, which we're very excited to share with everyone right now. So tonight we're kicking it off with Friday the 13th. Obviously like the origin story or stories, because apparently there are many of them, stories of bad things happening on Friday the 13th, whether it has anything to do with the day or not. But so that's tonight. Next week, we are going to have a guest by the name of Jody Jacobson. And not only is Jody a psychic medium, she's also a Salem witch, and has actually been trained and taught by witches from Salem, who I believe are descendants from the actual Salem witches. So very excited to talk to her about just witchcraft and like good magic and stuff like that. Then on the 29th, and I'm very excited about this, we are going to have Wes Armistead, who is a voodoo practitioner. And so he is going to be coming on to share with everybody kind of the history of voodoo and I don't want to say like the misconceptions about it, because apparently there are a lot. I heard him talk yesterday and was floored by like everything that I quote unquote knew about voodoo to what he knew about voodoo, and they were way different. And I'm definitely going to take his word over mine, which is something I will never ever say again. But in this case, that is a show you guys are definitely going to want to listen to, because it's just going to be fascinating. And then November 5th, which would be the show after that, we're going to wrap it up, even though it's a few days after Halloween, but we're going to wrap it up with a show on dark magic. So obviously the opposite of what Jody does. We are looking for a guest for that, for somebody that practices dark magic. So if anybody knows of anyone who would be interested in coming on and being our guest, who is a practitioner of dark magic, please send them our way. Otherwise, if we are unable to find a guest for that show, we will obviously just talk about dark magic and relay all the information that we can find in our research to all of you. And then it will be crop circles.
Yeah, and then we'll go to crop circles.
We're going to crop circles.
Yeah, crop circles. I mean, it was a great show. I was really into it. And then all of a sudden the technology thwarted me. I was like, all right, never mind. So I told Mike we're tabling it. I said I've been researching crop circles for 2 weeks. My brain needs a new it needs a break. Give me something new topic to talk about.
And he admitted, whether he wants me to say it in public or not, he followed the rabbit down the hole.
Oh yeah. No, I've been jumping down rabbit holes my whole life, but recently there's a couple that I've dove into.
Yes,
but
yes,
I will say this: I'm gonna quantify our show with Jody in saying that I already know I'm going to like her because she dislikes dolls in the paranormal.
Yes, that was so funny.
So I already feel a kinship to her. I already feel like that's going to be a wonderful interview, regardless of what direction it goes, because of the simple fact that she dislikes dolls in the paranormal.
Yes, definitely has come out publicly and stated that she does not like dolls. So
we're kindred spirits.
Yes, you are. And so I honestly, because she didn't go into detail about why she hates dolls, so I'm thinking that needs to be somewhat of a question.
First question that we're on. My first question. That's the first thing that's coming up.
First question is the most irrelevant.
Second question.
So so we are very excited about the next 5 weeks. Well, 4 weeks plus this week. Next 5 shows to share with everybody. So stay along for the ride. And I never say this, and I don't know why, because I really should, but share it with your friends. Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I see on Facebook just myself. They're like, I'm looking for a new podcast to listen to. Does anybody have any recommendations? That is the perfect time to throw out these guys.
Especially in the month of October, because this is a great opportunity for somebody to get to know us as we dive into some really great Halloween-themed topics. And then once you're in, well, you're in for life. That's just how it is. So, when we hit those shows where we have a little glitch, our fans are like, I'm going to have a terrible week until next week because, I didn't get satiated with my Mike and Dave need for the week. So we apologize to the fans who feel that way. I understand you're out there. I feel your empathy. Being an empath, I feel your empathy. Or I feel your pain. Sorry. So
yeah, something like that.
Just want to throw that out there. Yeah, just throwing that out there.
That's a good throw out there. So, like I said, great show for you tonight. But hour 1, as always, is going to be the mailbag. The Odyssey Files is proud to present the mailbag. All righty. Got some good stories here tonight. Some interesting ones. It's probably going to take like 20 minutes to get through number 1. So good job, Dave, on putting that as the top one.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew you'd like that one. I picked that one just for you.
I could tell because I have done a show when I used to co-host After Hours AM. We actually did a show on Ed and Lorraine Warren and stuff. So I do have my own opinion on that. I was actually asked yesterday at the convention that we did what my thoughts on Ed and Lorraine Warren were. So it's interesting that you picked that this story is now coming up again. So they say there's no such thing as coincidences.
Happens for a reason, buddy. That's right.
Yeah. So we'll have to see what this is going to bring forth. So story number 1. Do you believe the original Conjuring house is truly haunted? I've been infatuated with the paranormal for years. My biggest obsession has been the Conjuring house in Rhode Island. I know the blockbuster movie released about the home was only about 5% accurate, according to the family that lived there previously, but it still really intrigues me. I have watched numerous videos online of people investigating that home, and I want to visit so badly and see for myself, but I don't know how I feel about Ed and Lorraine Warren and their claims. I've heard lots of mixed reviews about them as ghost hunters, and many people say they are frauds and that Lorraine blamed Bathsheba Did I say that right?
Bathsheba. Yeah,
Bathsheba,
Bathsheba.
for being a demon and assaulting the wife who lived in the house for 10 years with her family, when multiple reports have said Bathsheba was not a witch, nor a bad lady at all. What are your guys' thoughts? All righty. So let me stick. Let me answer both questions. This is two different questions in general. The Conjuring House. Do I think that it is really haunted? Yeah, I do. Um, for whatever reason, I don't know. Uh, it could be because of everything that has been gone on there. It could be the 5% of the movie that is actually true. Um, obviously, I have had friends, Rochelle Stratton and Brian Murray, who have obviously did Sleepless Unrest. I trust them and their ability to discern between activity and natural occurrences. Um, I don't think that it's as haunted, or as I shouldn't even say as haunted, because it's either haunted or it's not haunted. It's as active as people claim it is. I've never watched any videos from there, especially on YouTube, of people investigating. So I can't really say much, but I will say that I I don't trust a lot of people who are just gonna wander into the house to do some random investigation while doing a Facebook Live. Uh, they don't seem to me to be of the top professional nature. And it's very easy to, somebody hears a knock that's a normal house thing and they start to scream. And they start to ghost adventure the shit out of it is probably the best way of phrasing it. Um, so unless you are there yourself, uh, watch and enjoy, but don't take everything with a grain of salt when it comes to evidence out of that place. Ed and Lorraine Warren. I think Ed and Lorraine Warren were definitely legit. Like, I think Lorraine Warren definitely has abilities. I think Ed Warren knew what he was doing. Like, when it comes to uh, interacting with demonic cases, when it came to exorcisms and stuff like that, I definitely think he had the experience and the knowledge to be as good as he has pertained to be. What I also believe is that even though they are, I mean, obviously they're both passed away now, but back when they made the name for themselves, back in the 70s and early 80s, there were no ghost hunters, there were no ghost adventures. Even Most Haunted, which just has a lady screaming over in Europe, none of that was on TV. It was like the local paper for like 1 or 2 days that something weird was going on, and then it vanished. It really just wasn't newsworthy. And so I think what happened with Ed and Lorraine Warren is they embellished and they exaggerated what was going on with kind of the mentality, not to really like make themselves look amazing or anything like that. Um, but to them, it was a victimless crime. I mean, you made up some wild story. Nobody was ever going to get hurt. Obviously, as time moved on and it became more and more mainstream, all of these claims and stuff that they had made in the past all came back, and now it's snowballed on them. Now it's like humongous. They wanted to make a movie, The Amityville Horror. Um, so I think they did what probably anybody would do, and they cashed the shit out of it. They went full bore. They went, all right, let's write a book. We want us to be part of this movie and talk about this. Absolutely, no problem. Because as everybody knows, investigating the paranormal is not a lucrative career. Uh, every paranormal investigator out there, if they want to make at all a living with it, it's by doing other stuff. It's by getting clicks on YouTube and trying to get money there. It's writing books that nobody reads, except friends and family. So I mean, I I don't know anything about Bathsheba. Um, but like I said, I don't think Ed and Lorraine Warren were frauds as much as they got caught up in the pageantry of what the paranormal could be. And back then, I mean, you can't really blame them for that. I mean, you honestly can't, because if you watch Ghost Adventures, that's all they do now. All they do is embellish and lie and create these wild stories in order to make these locations look wonderful. So if you watch that show and you love Zach Baggins and you love the Ghost Adventures crew and you love uh you know the Destination Fear crew and all the people who just go out there and scream a lot, you can't look down on Ed and Lorraine Warren for anything that they did. So that's my 2 cents on them. Conjuring House, yay. Hollywood.
All right. Do I believe the house is truly haunted? Yeah, absolutely, I do. I'm with Mike in the fact that I don't know why it's haunted. I don't know why. I don't know what happened there. I believe the parents' story. I've seen the family interviewed. I've seen them in documentaries, not movies, actual documentaries where they're just sitting down talking about facts and figures, not Hollywood embellished storylines. I've read some articles. I've read some books. Everything that happened to them, to me, seems pretty legitimate. If you take the storyline, it makes for a great Hollywood movie, which obviously it turned into a great Hollywood movie and probably one of the most successful, at least in recent times, one of the most successful movie franchises out there. Everything that has the tie into the Conjuring house does extremely well. They're all fairly good movies. If you're a horror movie buff fan, I don't really think there's a bad one. I've seen them all. I do believe that the house is haunted. I do believe things happen there. As far as Bathsheba goes, I just recently saw, and I wish I had the link. I should have looked that up. But there's a lady who just did an interview for a documentary that is really well versed in that house and the true history and background of it. And the lady who is called Bathsheba was a legitimate woman. She lived, I think 3 miles, if I'm off the top of my head here, it was 3 miles she lived 3 miles from the property. So her house was 3 miles away. She was at that property. She was frequented in that area. Was she a witch? I don't think so. But was she a nice person? I don't think so either. I think that from what this lady had said, that there was some documented cases where, like in old articles and stuff like that, where she was involved in some shit. And so I think that Hollywood got a hold of that little nugget of information and ran with it and turned her into this horrible demonic witch, which I don't think that was the case. But so, as far as Ed and Lorraine Warren, I'm a fan. So I got nothing bad to say about him. I mean, I respect Ed for devoting his life to trying to fight evil. And Lorraine was gifted and would just, to me, always appeared to be an incredibly genuinely sweet woman who just did the best she could with the gifts that she was given. So I have absolutely nothing negative to say about the Warrens. I'm a fan. So.
Let me just also say that, I mean, even though I probably seemed a little harsh on them, I'm a fan as well. I love the Warrens. I think they did an amazing job in what they did. I don't think you would have the paranormal mainstream thing without the Warrens, even though they weren't the centerpiece of Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventure and all the shows. You wouldn't have had that interest in creating those shows if not for the Warrens.
I consider the Warrens to be like our founders of the paranormal. To me, that's what they are. That's what they represent. You've got a guy who wants to fight darkness and rid it out of people's lives, and you've got a woman who is extremely gifted has the ability to communicate with the dead and discern issues going on in people's lives, and wants nothing but to help. So, to me, it doesn't get any better than that. I think, I agree with you. Without them, not saying that history and the universe wouldn't have thrown somebody else into that position, but as far as like my beliefs with everything happens for a reason, there is no such thing as coincidence. I think that the universe pulling the Warrens, I think that was a hell of a good choice to be our kind of our grandparents in the paranormal. It's kind of how I look at them. So, all right, enough of embellishing the Warrens. But yeah, I think the house is haunted. I would love to go out there. As a side note, a quick side note, I had seen, because there had been some controversy lately with the owners that had bought the Conjuring house. So
the new owners, or the ones that?
Well, Jen and Corey, when Jen and Corey had bought it, because they have a family, and they had bought it, and their intention was to move in there and live there. They tried, and I saw Corey in an interview not that long ago was talking about it and said that they couldn't. It just wasn't working. They couldn't live there because his son was being extremely affected by the house. And his son refused to be there. He couldn't even be in the house anymore. It had gotten that bad. So if there is something in that house, legitimately in that house, that targets one person, like what happened with the Perrin family, then it targeted their son. And because of that, they sold it. So they no longer own the property. So all of their plans were to, make it. I mean, their plans were to kind of keep it and make it a destination for paranormal enthusiasts to be able to go out there. They were going to have some like annual events and stuff like that, and actually live there. But all of that kind of fell apart. So
made a tiny profit on that too.
Well, they did. Yeah, they bought it for $439 or $440, something like that, in 2019, and it sold. There was multiple bids. I think. Let's see, they were asking $1.2 million, and the final purchase price, this Jacqueline Nunez, who's a Boston developer, bought it for $1.525 million. So, yeah, I mean, they made quite a nice penny on it. Good for them.
They did.
Right? I mean, and she's planning on keeping it as a paranormal destination house, and we know hardly anything about the paranormal because there are no such thing as paranormal experts. So we're always learning. Every day that we wake up and we dive into the pool of the paranormal, we learn something new, or we confirm something that we thought was right by finding more evidence to support our theories and our thoughts. But I will say this, moving forward with this house, if it's going to be kept open only as a paranormal destination, which is now it appears to be, it's going to be like the new Waverly, so to speak. All you're doing is fuel, whatever's there is just going to get fueled up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this house, and if it becomes more active or more aggressive, or exactly kind of what happens to it.
I don't want to discuss this anymore. I'm just going to end it by saying I don't think it's going to be the next Waverly. I think it's going to be the next Villisca.
Maybe.
Nothing will ever be as big or as popular as Waverly Hills. I'm sorry. It's just not going to, unless the Winchester Mansion or like Alcatraz just suddenly opens their doors to paranormal enthusiasts.
Right.
All right, moving on.
Okay, number 2, crazy experience at the creek. So this past weekend, I went arrowhead hunting in a creek with my boyfriend and best friend. It has become my boyfriend and I's favorite pastime, and we go every weekend with lots of luck. However, this weekend, we were in a creek we haven't explored much, and as we were looking, my boyfriend says to me that he heard someone whisper his name. I didn't think much about it because I knew it wasn't me or my friend, so we all just kept going. A little while later, he goes ahead of us, and I hear what sounds like him calling me by my nickname. So I quickly look around, but he's nowhere near, and I noticed he went so far ahead, there's no possible way it was him that called me. I don't think my friend heard it either. I will mention that my boyfriend and I have both had paranormal experiences throughout our lives. One interesting experience I would like to mention happened years ago at a creek by my own house and has spooked me since then. I was walking around down there and I heard what I thought was a flute playing and ran as fast as I could home. I also found many arrowheads at my creek as well, so I'm guessing it could have been the spirit of a Native American. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I have heard others say that they have heard wind instruments being played near ancient native lands too. So I guess what I'm trying to ask you guys is what the heck do you think happened out there this weekend when we heard someone calling our names? Was it paranormal like the flute I and many others have heard at the creek by my house? Any thoughts would be great. Thanks. All right. I think that, like anything else, your intention goes with you. We talk about this all the time when we're investigating and like actually at a location and intention and stuff. So your intention is to go dig up pieces of Native American history. That's what your intention is. When you show up at that creek, you're not going there just to get the sun on your face. You're going there to find ancient artifacts of a race of people that no longer walk those lands in the capacity that they once did. So, do I think that it's possible that the spirits of Native Americans are in the area where you're looking, and that as you're uncovering their possessions, arrowheads, other who knows what else you're finding, but let's just stick with arrowheads for now. So if you're finding arrowheads, that was part of the things that they made with their hands, and that was their livelihood that they used to sustain life for their family and their tribes, then I'm guessing that it's very possible that there are energies around that location that could be following you. I think more not in any type of dark capacity in any way, shape, or form, I don't think. I think more so as possibly guiding you, depending on your energy going into it, and or just curious as to what you're doing there. So do I think it's possible that an energy was there and that knew who you were because you have done this for a while and you've made this like a hobby in your life and something that you do on a frequent basis? I think that that's possible. I think that anytime you go back to a location multiple times, if there's something there, it hears you talking. It hears your boyfriend call you by your pet name, your nickname, whatever. Multiple occasions, it hears that. Why wouldn't it repeat it? So yeah, I think that it's very possible. I think that's very possible that the entity's there. I don't think it's anything to be scared of. I think that you're going there looking for stuff. I think that you're finding things. I think that's great. You're pulling something out of there. I'm always a fan of giving something back. So maybe next time you go down to the creek, take a gift. Take something. It doesn't have to be anything special. It could be some fruit. It could be some tobacco. It could be whatever your gut tells you to take. Something natural. Don't take like a plastic bottle and leave it in the woods. Just take something natural that Mother Earth will absorb, so to speak, or the animals in the forest will use or whatever, and leave it there as a gift to just say, hey, thanks. I appreciate the fact that we're finding these arrowheads and stuff like that. I have heard. Okay, so moving on to the second thing here, paranormal flute. I have heard at locations that were primarily large Native American, like encampment sites. I have heard Native American, what I would consider to be Native American drum beats and wind instruments. So do I think that it's possible that that's what you heard? I would say that if you're in the locations that you're in, I would say that it'd be strange if you didn't. And you go there multiple times, I think it would be strange if you didn't hear some type of residual noises, music, whatever you want to say.
All right. I'm going slightly over, or slightly 10% to the left, or 10 degrees to the left of
10 degrees to the left. Okay.
So, the one thing that Dave and I have talked about a lot, and I was reading something for our main topic halfway through your for half your thing. So maybe you mentioned this and I just missed it. But we have talked a lot about taking things from nature without asking and the consequences that come from that. And I know you're not going to a state park or anything like that and taking wood or stone, but you are going to what is a natural habitat, and you're taking things back home with you, and you're doing it constantly. Um, so I would just recommend in the future, and Dave's absolutely right. An offering would be amazing. Strawberries, almonds, but yeah, something definitely of nature, and take it as a thank you to the spirits, to the nature spirits, um, to and ask from now on permission. Can we take these arrowheads home? We're here to search for arrowheads. We don't mean any disrespect for taking them. Is it okay? Here is an offering we would like to give you to show our goodwill and our good intentions. Uh, it costs you nothing but the price of the fruit to do it. Um, I don't know if necessarily you were dealing with native spirits as much as you may be dealing with water spirits. Maybe even the Fae, which is the
Knew you were
tentacle.
going to go there.
I knew, but and the only reason that I did is because there's a guy yesterday, obviously, that did a presentation on the Fae, and
Yep.
one of the things that he had talked about was water spirits. And he even mentioned like Stillwater and the river that obviously goes the St. Croix River that goes right through it. And he's like, have you ever seen this? He's like, well, those are water spirits. So I know that they exist. I think they might have just been letting you know that they're there and they know who you are. I don't want to necessarily that it was like a warning or anything like that. It's just like we know who you are and we know why you're here. So right now you haven't worn out your welcome. So I would just make sure that you don't. So as Dave and I have suggested, bring an offering, ask permission, show them the respect that they deserve. It's their land. It's their arrowheads. As for the flute, you're right in water. I mean, that's the best conductor of energy you're ever going to find. So Dave's absolutely right. If there was a native presence there, you're going to hear that stuff, whether it's residual or whether it's just natural. I mean, it could be the wind through the trees, something like that, that's creating that type of sound. But either way, it can definitely be energy, like supernatural energy in origin. So again, nothing that should freak you out. Flute music, unless you feel like a need to suddenly walk into the water because the Pied Piper is calling you, I think you're probably pretty fine when it comes to hearing phantom flute.
I don't think you needed to run.
Yeah, and I mean I understand that it can be like, what, what's the band doing out here? Is Kenny G around? Like I think you're fine. So just take that advice, and I think you and your boyfriend and your friend can go out air hunting anytime you want. Just show them the respect that they deserve, and nothing bad will happen to you in return. Alrighty then. Number 3. Something is terrorizing me. A couple of weeks ago, I heard a knock on my front door. It was around 1 a.m. So yeah, no way in hell I'm answering it. A couple seconds later, it traveled to my back door. For context, my house is fairly large, and I feel like it'd be impossible to make it there in what felt like 2 seconds. I brushed it off, though, thinking it was just house noises. Recently, the knocks appeared again, but they got more frequent, just like every night. Just a knock on my bedroom window, then the bathroom window, etc. This is when I started getting scared. There are security cameras all around my house. I checked the footage and there was nothing out of the ordinary. I know I'm not hallucinating either, and none of the meds I take would cause that effect. What really drove me to send this to you guys, though, is hearing what sounded like a lady whispering at my window, followed by 3 knocks on the back door a couple minutes later. I know I'm not going crazy. Please, guys, just give me advice or give me ideas on what this could be. I don't feel safe in my own house. So this is a new one for me. I mean, obviously knocks at the front door, stuff like that. That's all.
Pizza guy.
Yeah, but one of the morning somebody ordered you a pizza. Boy, he's not only fast but very determined. Like you're
Well,
getting this.
You've eaten pizza at 1 a.m.
I haven't ordered it at 1 a.m. Everything is closed by that time, except for Taco Bell.
Well, pre-COVID, it wasn't. Pre-COVID, you could get pizza until you could get pizza at 1 a.m.
I don't.
Now you can't get pizza past 7 p.m. But that's a whole another show.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and that's for 2 dudes and some chips.
Yeah,
right there.
exactly.
That's
first show of the season right there. Yeah.
I'll write that down as one topic for 2 dudes and some chips.
Yeah.
So
the bullshit pizza delivery schedule now.
What is with these restaurants closing at 7?
Yeah.
I don't know why I just had to sound like Seinfeld, but I did.
I was going to say that's a pretty good Jerry Seinfeld right there.
Thank you. Anyways, getting back to the person getting terrorized.
Yeah, sorry.
That's right. So, but the thing about this is, and this is what threw me for a loop here, because I mean, when I first was thinking about it, well, I'm like, it's the neighborhood kids, one at the front, one at the back, something like that. But then you added in the cameras, and there's no kids, and there's no nothing, and it's on the windows, and it's on the. But the thing about it is this seems like what you would get if you are talking about something like demonic. They always ramp up. They start slow. Right. They start like 1 or 2 things, and then they start ramping up. But it's always in the house. This is all outside the house. And so honestly, to me, it just seems like something is trying to get you to open the door. Something is trying to get you to open up the windows. Something is trying to get you to let it in. What it is, I don't know. It could be an elemental. It could be a puck wedgie. It could be a demonic entity, although I don't know why it's acting like a vampire. But there's something that wants you to let it in. And I wish that I could just be like, ignore it, it'll go on away on its own. I don't know if that's true or not. Honestly, I would have somebody, depending on I guess it all used to be native land, no matter what.
Right.
I would bring a shaman over, and I would bring. I don't know if you necessarily need to go with like a priest or anything like that. Definitely a shaman, and I would have them bless your land. They don't need to necessarily bless the house, just the land. And I would start with shaman, and if that doesn't make it go away, then go one, another step further and maybe bring in, a priest or reverend or somebody to bless the land. If that doesn't work, then I would bring like a psychic medium that would be able to maybe give you just a little bit more information as to what exactly is trying to get inside your house. I don't think this is probably the only time I will ever say this. I don't think that this is a case for a paranormal team. Not yet. This is where you just want to kind of go with a cleansing and a blessing, and then try to go directly with maybe like a psychic medium type clearing to try and figure out and get rid of what is trying to get into your house. If by some force of nature or whatever, things start to happen inside your house, well, then you're kind of screwed. So, and that's when you start calling in the paranormal team, and that's when it kind of transitions over to a case where it now obviously involves your house. But as of right now, never open the window, never open the door when these things knock.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice. Number one, don't open the door. I, I'm going to say, something caused this. There's always a catalyst for all paranormal activity that is a little bit on the darker side. So something caused this. I don't think it's kids screwing around. I think something changed in this person's life, or they did something um, that that they shouldn't have, that the universe frowned upon, and now whatever the reaction to the world's, the ether's reaction is to this individual, it's kind of acting in a way of creating fear, which I don't like that. Hearing somebody whispering outside your window, then hearing knocks at the back door. It's always happening late at night. You've got cameras up. That debunks the fact that it could be kids in the neighborhood playing around. I would say something happened. I would try to take a look at potentially what it is, and I think that will. Well, I know. I know that will help find a solution for it. Inviting somebody over and telling them I have no idea what's going on, but this is what's happening. It's such a huge realm that it's hard to pinpoint stuff. But if you say, hey, this happened, and now since that, and before that, I was experiencing nothing, and then this event happened, and now this is happening as a reaction to that, then I think that you've got a context in with which to find a solution to the issue. So I'm not going to jump on the demonic bandwagon here yet, but I do think that there is obviously something that is trying to get your attention, that's trying to get in, and my advice to you would be not to let it in. Keep it at bay. I agree with Mike. Try and get a blessing for the land. If you are a person of faith and you have a religious belief that you follow, if it happens to be Catholic or a devout Christian, I would say you could do this yourself. Get some blessed medals, put them at the four corners of your property, go outside and state your intent that you want to be left alone, and see what happens. I wouldn't take it past that as far as a self-cure. And it'd probably be better off to have somebody else do that anyway, now that I think about it. But stating your intent certainly is not a bad idea. You don't want this to be happening. It's your house, it's your property for right now. Establish that fact, and try to stand up and take ownership of it as best you can. If you're too scared to do that, if this has got you totally freaked out to the point where you are cringing in the corner, then obviously you need to call somebody right away, because you can't live your life like that. So that would be my best advice. Try and figure out what you did recently or what happened recently that could possibly cause this. Take back your property, take back your house. If it's already moved past that, or you just don't have the ability to do that, then reach out and get some help sooner rather than later, would be my advice.
The only thing that I would like to add to that is it might have been sent to him.
I think it's a her.
Oh, sent to her.
But
him or her.
That's the feeling I get, is that this is a female, but
right. Well, him or her.
Right. To whoever it is, right. That something was sent like as an attack, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think there are spells and whatnot that there is a barrier that needs to be kind of let in. The door needs to be opened
right
before it can get in. So, I mean, that could be a reason why as well. So I would think back into your past of who is the vindictive son of a beach, who might have the cantaloupes to do something like this, and maybe go from there. I mean, if it is something like witchcraft, well, that needs to be handled in a completely different manner.
Right.
So again, there's steps that you can take in order to find answers here if this continues.
That'd be a good topic for Jody as to one of the questions as far as if a spell is put on you, from what I know, that the only way that spell can really be removed the right way is for the person who placed it to remove it.
That is a
So
very
if
good
that,
question.
yeah, that is. So I'm curious. That's going to be one of the questions for Jody. So Jody, if you listen, and get prepared for that one, and then we can bond over the whole "I hate dolls" thing too. So, all right. So
You need to move past that.
I can't move past that. I got joy in my heart for tonight, based on the fact that she hates dolls in the paranormal. So, all right. So anything else?
Nope,
Get some
moving
help.
on.
Get help either way, whether it's somebody who put something against you or it's something you accidentally did. I think that my gut's telling me that it's time for you to get some help instead of being scared shitless in your house. So reach out and get some help. Number 4, it's a demon. My childhood home has been haunted by a demonic presence since I was about 10 years old. My parents still live there and plan to die there. My mom has experiences almost daily, but my dad still tries to ignore it. It hasn't tried to harm them like it did with me. The other day I went by for a visit and I brought with me my 2-year-old son. At one point, he ran to the front of the house where the staircase is. I immediately felt the entity appear and I took off after my son. My son looked up at the top of the stairs, waved, and said hi. As I went to grab him, his face dropped to fear. I swooped him up in my arms and shielded his face from it. I had been praying it wouldn't show itself to my child, but of course it didn't care what I thought. My son refused to walk over there alone the rest of the time we hung out and has had issues since that day. How do I break this demonic grip over my child? Okay. I'm just going here and taking this at face value from my answer here. If this demon terrorized you in this house and you left and moved out of this house and your experiences stopped, then I would say that you don't have to worry about this demonic entity following your son back to your house, because it doesn't have interest in your son. It just came to see who the new energy was in the house when you came over. Just because he came by, just because the demon came to see who was in the house, doesn't mean that there's an attachment in any way, shape, or form bonded at that time. My bigger concern here would be, why is there a demonic presence in your house? And why have you not done anything about it? Especially if your mom's having experiences daily and your dad's denying that these experiences are happening. I can understand the family dynamics. I get it. I've lived through shit like that. But if somebody needs to figure out why this demon's in your house, what it's feeding on, because it's not going to be there and starve itself. So it's obviously feeding on something. So what's it feeding on? And then you need to remove it forcibly. So as far as your son goes, I think that you're overreacting. And I think that this overreaction is probably based on facts of your own childhood and you seeing in your mind's eye, this is what happened to me. I'm not going to let that happen to my child. I get that as a parent. But I think that you are taking it in your mind is playing it forward way too many steps from where you actually are. I don't think that there's any issues. Now, if all of a sudden you were to write back to us and say, hey, you guys, this is what's happened since, and my son, since we went to my parents' house and my son, blah, 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 and this has been happening to him, and it seems to be targeting him, that's a whole nother story. But that's not what's written here. So what's written here is what my answer is based on. So I think that you need to find out what the demon is. You need to find out who it is, and you need to move it on from there. And you need to find out what it's eating, because whatever it's eating is diminishing the life of the person who's giving it the energy. Remember, demons and negative entities are parasitic in their context. So as a parasite, parasites need to feed all the time. Kind of like the best way to describe it would be you go swimming at the local pond or lake or whatever with your friends, and somebody gets a leech on them, and everybody freaks out because somebody's got a leech who's, slipped on silently, and you don't feel the bite. And all of a sudden, you've got this thing attached to you that you can't just easily push it off of you. It's attached, and it's drinking your blood in order to sustain life. That's the way I view parasitic entities. So you need to find that information out. Don't overreact. But I would say if you're going to go see your parents, maybe it'd be best to invite your parents to your house instead of going back to the house where you have a lot of bad memories, would be my advice until this gets resolved.
All right. So you're probably going to be cosmically shocked by this, but I do not think it's a demon.
I can't believe that. That just totally ruins my day.
So, and I'll tell you why. I get the fact that this person believes that they were, and they probably were, I shouldn't even say believes, was terrorized as a kid. And then you were right. You kind of changed my answer as you were talking because you're right. They moved out and nothing followed.
Right.
I would think that if it is a demonic entity who has not so much attached to this person, to the girl, but has targeted her, it's going to go with her. It's going to want to continue to target. It's not just going to all of a sudden be like, oh, she's gone. Well, I guess I'll mess with the mom a few times here and there.
Up on me there, buddy.
Say what? No, you're freezing up.
Oh, you completely froze up first. So we're back.
No, well, you're back. I was running just fine. Anyways, this just doesn't follow the whole demonic case, just because of the fact of but my dad still tries to ignore it. It hasn't tried to harm them. Like that's just, and obviously this girl's been gone for a while, like a couple years. I mean, obviously her son wasn't born there. Demons don't hang out that long. And not do anything. Like they may be there that long, but they're always constantly moving along to higher levels. And just because the mom is having experiences, the dad obviously isn't having as many experiences, and to such a lesser degree that he can ignore them, apparently. Just leads me to believe that it's not a demonic entity. But I do absolutely believe that there is activity in their home. So that brings the question of what is it? Or who is it? And I honestly think that, and this is, people are going to be like, oh, you're just creating an entity that fits in what you want to believe. And maybe that's true, but there are spirits out there who hate children. They don't particularly mind adults, but they hate children. And this just seems to me that obviously when the child moved out, this entity got what it wanted, and the children of the house were gone. The fact that it didn't come out until the 2-year-old appeared to, like, it was going to run to the stairs and go upstairs, did it appear to try and stop it. It didn't engage. It's scared the living crap out of them, which is what an entity would do if it's trying to keep obviously a 2-year-old child from going upstairs. I mean, that move just seems more territorial than it does demonic. And and again, because the one thing question that came to mind is, and she's like, and my son's having other problems. What are the other problems? I mean, are his eyes turning black? Because that's a problem.
That would be a problem. Yeah.
And that would definitely change my answer. So, I mean, is he just crying for no reason because he saw like this really, crazy, scary face while he was over there? Because again, that is an entity that wants to not only mark its territory and keep children away from them, but does not like kids. So this is one of those things where, and I agree with you, Dave. Why haven't you taken care of it? Especially if you think it's a demon. And you're kind of like, I'm moving out. Sorry, mom and dad. Hope it doesn't possess you.
Right.
Don't call me if it does.
Yeah.
But this seems like a perfect case for a reputable paranormal team. Like, this is a case I would love because, one, children are involved, which is going to make me a tiny bit angry. But it's something where you can get like man on man, like you can go mano a mano, like as a alpha male, you can go to the spirit who probably also considers himself an alpha male and get and actually get them to interact with you, because they will feel like they are at least in some way on a equal level, and that they can get their message across, which is probably get out. I mean, so yeah, I agree with you, Dave. This person is overreacting.
Mhm.
I don't think this case is demonic, though. I think it's just a very nasty entity who wants it his way and only his way. And
it's the get off my lawn guy.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
It's
much
like, you kids get the hell off my lawn. Yeah.
I think it's the get off my lawn guy. So that's my answer to this. I mean, that doesn't mean that this entity isn't correct or justified in anything that he's doing.
No.
I'm still it still makes me mad that you had to deal with this entity your entire childhood, and now your son has now gotten a whiff of it. So yeah, I definitely think it needs to be dealt with, and that should be your next step. All righty. Well, we need to go to break. And so when we come back, we'll decide what we want to do. And so we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Hey, this is Mike Couch from Lost Limbs Foundation. Make sure you check out Mike and Dave on the Odyssey Files because they really need the listeners.
Hello, I'm Al Lagarde from Paper Route Productions, executive producer of Kindred Spirits, Paranormal State, a whole bunch of television shows. And I've worked with a lot of people on paranormal projects and met a lot of people in paranormal radio. And I want to say that Dave and Mike are two people who have a face for radio, in particular, internet radio.
Hey, it's Chris Fleming. More painful than a Tyrannosaurus Rex stepping on your testicle. Listen to Dave and Mike on Odyssey Files.
Hey everybody, it's Chad Lindbergh, and you are listening to the Odyssey Files with David and Michael. And let me tell you, it's almost as painful as a Skype glitch.
This is Andy Lynch, Director of Photography of Kindred Spirits. And when I'm not filming Amy and Adam at some creepy location, you can find me listening to the Odyssey Files with Dave and Mike. Or doing something else, I don't know.
Hello everyone, this is Ken Boggle. You hear so many great moments during each and every episode of the Odyssey Files with Dave and Mike, but if I had to really choose my favorite moment, it would have to be when the show is over.
And we are back. I would not be the friend and supporter of my friend Mr. Kenneth Boggle if I did not say that in 3 days, on the 18th, his show, his new I can't even say it's his new show because it's his only show, Living for the Dead, will be released. So coming up on the 18th, it'll be on Hulu and Disney Plus, or at least especially on Hulu, but it was made by Disney, or produced by Disney. So I'm assuming it'll also be on Disney Plus, which is good because I don't have a Hulu, but I have a Disney. So, yes, so it is a different kind of paranormal show. So if you find yourself wondering what to watch on, what would that be, Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday. Check it out.
That's good because there's not much on Wednesdays. So now I'm excited.
Well, good. All right. So do we want to move on to our topic, or do we want to do?
Yeah, I want to throw one thing out there after listening to you. So I don't know that. So like I said, I took it as exactly how it was written, right? So as a demon. I totally can see the get off my lawn guy too. And that makes sense in the fact that dad isn't getting bothered, which male to male in that kind of instance, he probably wouldn't give a shit about the other male. But that mom's having experiences because if he's the get off the lawn guy, he might be an asshole towards women too. That kind of goes hand in hand. Yeah, that's what I mean. Treats women like shit, get in the kitchen, make my sandwich type attitude like that. I want to say though, and this is why I just bring it up quick. The son ran to the stairs, waved, and said hi. So I'm thinking that in that instance, the entity was going to respond. Mom comes running in there and is projecting all of this fear. As she's approaching her son picks up on all this fear. And all of a sudden, this moment where there's somebody or something at the top of the stairs that I'm saying hi to, here comes mom. She's hauling ass through the house screaming as she's running towards me. I'm 2 years old. I'm going to get scared out of my mind, irregardless of what I see in front of me, because my mother is running at me screaming and emitting a shitload of energy of fear. And I think that could be the case of what happened there. Again, in that instance, the mom overreacting, and could be rightfully so, right? I mean, if it's the get off my lawn guy, probably hates kids. And as a child growing up in a house with a guy who hates kids and doesn't like women in general, it probably was a shitty, probably had some shitty experiences growing up. So, but I think that comes into play is the mom's energy running towards the two. I can see that happening. Like the kid's just like, hi. And then all of a sudden everybody, like, the person who gave you life and that you're snuggling with every day of your life at that age comes running at you with this incredible look of fear on her face. You're going to react to that. And I think that might be what happened there. But anyway, let's move on to our topic of the day, and we can save, because that works for me, because then I have to do less research we've got 2 stories from last week, 2 stories from this week. So what do you know? There's 4 stories carrying over.
We're already ready for next week.
And we're good to go for next week. I don't have to do anything. Which isn't true, because I've actually got some really good stories that have showed up that I want to talk about. So they'll get intermingled. They'll get sprinkled in there. So
yes, they will. All righty. So
I'm looking forward to you saying the phobias that are associated with Friday the 13th.
You mean the parascopic phobia?
Yeah, that's one of them. I saw those and I started laughing my ass off. I'm like, I cannot wait until the show and hear Mike say, and in Friday the 13th, and there's a if you are afraid of Friday the 13th, here's your phobia. 37 letters later.
I just want to say this really quick because I came across these unwielding terms as they were claimed. Now I grew up with the notion or the mentality that supercalifragilisticexpialidocious was the longest word in the English language because they made the whole. Not anymore. I want to take the person who came up with these names out into the middle of the street and beat them.
Yeah.
Because this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous as to who came up with this. So, yeah. So before we get into, since we're already on this kind of focus topic, part of it, subtopic, before we get into the origins, there are two terms that that describe fear of this supposedly unlucky day, Friday the 13th. Parascavitriaphobia, and frigatristic Frigga. Why would you put Frigga in there?
The Norse god. Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Nigga?
Yeah, it's a Norse god.
Frigga?
Frigga. Yeah, where is it?
Frigga Triskaidekaphobia. Frigga Triskaidphobia. In para, so hey, I can do parascaved Katriaphobia.
That's close enough for me.
There should be some hyphens in there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I don't think I'd be. Neither one of them just roll off the tongue. So it's not like arachnophobia, right? Like arachnophobia just rolls off the tongue nicely.
Yes, it does. That's why they titled it to a movie. But if I ever saw one of these terms as the name of a movie, I am not going to go see that movie. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
Well, nobody will be able to pronounce the name of it, so nobody will probably go see it.
Exactly. All right. So surprisingly, maybe I should say unsurprisingly, there are multiple origins of the myth. Now, obviously, Friday the 13th is been around obviously for centuries, but
ever since mankind invented the calendar.
Exactly. It's just another day of the month,
right?
So why do we think of Friday the 13th in such a negative and bad luck type of way? When did that start? That's my question to you.
Okay. Well, I can tell you my origin story. So,
you mean your birth?
No. No, I was born on Friday the 13th. No, I'm kidding. I was born on a Saturday. But for me, the first time I really heard about it was brought to me in kind of in the Christian kind of realm, Christianity kind of realm, where from the Last Supper. So when Jesus sat down with his disciples, there were 12, and kind of a last minute addition was Judas, who became the 13th that sat down with Jesus for the Last Supper. Judas happens to be, obviously, if I would assume everybody knows, but if you don't know, Judas happens to be the individual who betrayed Jesus Christ, and for 30 pieces of silver, and so you've got that. So basically, he gave up the ghost on Jesus. So that's kind of where I heard of it, and was told like that symbolism of 13 carries a negative connotation. Friday the 13th just kind of, I think, fell into place based on that. and that 13 in itself was an unlucky number. I would venture to say a majority of people who were raised with some type of religion also are aware of that story. And that that's why the number 13 is an unlucky number. Now, is there truth to that? There's a whole lot of references. You can go to the Bible and find a whole lot of bad things that happen on Fridays. That doesn't mean Friday's a bad day, right? I mean, Friday is a great day. It's the end of the work week. It's, great happy hour specials. You hook up with all of your friends after work. You got the weekend ahead of you, whatever your plans are. You're excited. You got another paycheck in your pocket. I mean, for me, Fridays were always great days. So I think it just depends on your life, like who you are and how you look at it. But that's where Friday the 13th kind of came into play for me in my own personal journey. I don't feel that Friday the 13th is a bad day. I do think that Friday the 13th has the possibility, since it's kind of a rare occurrence. It happens. So let's put it this way too, right? So 2022 is interesting because in 2022, there was only one Friday the 13th. This year, there's three. Or this is 3, 2. Usually, so that it's okay. So either way, it goes from 1 to 3 in a calendar year. So there could be there's going to be at least one. The maximum that there's going to be is 3. I think of it kind of as the possibility that it's the same thing as Halloween, in that the veil kind of lessens in itself, and that the veil becomes thinner, and that there's a possibility that we can peek at the other side easier. To me, that's what Friday the 13th is, as loyal as Halloween. So I am excited about Friday the 13th. I think it's a great day. Like, I try to get out and do something that I normally wouldn't do on Friday the 13th. I don't have either one of the phobias, let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, and you definitely don't. Although the whole veil thing, I just gonna throw out there as pure poppycock.
Possibly.
So
I mean, possibly, and maybe not. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. We're never going to know, because it's one of those answers that's never going to come.
Yeah, because almost everything that deals with Friday the 13th, besides just being a normal Friday whose date lands on that month's 13th day, is just another Friday.
It's the same thing as saying that any of the seasonal equinoxes are just another day. Yet, whole civilizations of individuals would worship and like take the day off and go and have these massive worship events for this specific day when the moon aligned in the right position, and man wrote down a name on a calendar and said, hey, this is the day we're going to celebrate.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, it's just another normal day, except we give it its power. If you walk through Friday the 13th and you didn't even know, let's just say you're just totally focused on something else. You don't pay attention to it. And that's happened to me. In fact, tomorrow's my sister's birthday, which I completely forgot until just right now.
You're welcome.
Except last week, because last week I did make sure that I had the evidence to state that I had remembered. But so it's on video that I have remembered, but I just
it's on video. Exactly.
It's on video.
It's documented. Damn it.
So, but I'm just saying, if you walked around not paying attention to what date it was, just that it was right. Friday, the last day of the week, payday, you're going to go out with your friends, you didn't pay attention to, you would live your life as you normally would if it was Thursday the 13th or Wednesday, Saturday, whatever. If you go through Friday the 13th convinced that this is the day for bad luck, you are going to create your own bad luck.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that.
And all of these beliefs, all of these superstitions, walking under a ladder, breaking a mirror, you have 7 years back, like all of that is myth, legend, and these insane ideas that people throughout time have started that for whatever reason, got the ball rolling and is still going today. So
remember that everything that we discuss and everything that we talk about has a shred of truth to it in its origin story.
I'm
so
not
a black
saying
cat walking in front of you coincides with crop failure caused
ridiculous.
somebody to say this black cat is is the reason why that my crops failed. Now, is that ridiculous? Absolutely it is. But was it ridiculous to that person in 560 AD? No. I mean, to them, they saw it as a potential reason as to why that event happened. And 500 or 1,000 years from now, if we haven't destroyed ourselves by then,
we will have.
Well, I know we will. I'm trying to be positive here, man. So, they'll look back on it, and the conversation you and I are having right now will seem to them like ignorance. So it's all just depends on the time, in life.
I fully believe that throughout in the entire human history, even to this day, humans have the unbelievable talent of finding ways to blame other shit for the things we do.
Absolutely.
So all of these superstitions is like this sidestepping of responsibility to make it so it was not our fault whatever happened. Oh, I tripped and embarrassed myself. I broke a mirror this morning. That must have been it. It couldn't just be like you're clumsy. We all do these things that, yes, they are bad. They are bad luck. But the things that we do, but we find ways of creating stories to explain it where it's not our fault. And we still do it to this day.
Or to explain an event that we don't understand. It doesn't have to be something at fault. It could just be an event that happens that we have no clue as to why that event happened. And so we have to, as being human beings, we have to have some sort of rational explanation as to why that happened or why it could have happened.
No, I don't agree with that. That's okay.
That is totally the case. We, as human beings, are the most inquisitive beings on the planet Earth. We're ignorant, but we're inquisitive. And that inquisitiveness causes us to search for answers and reasons as to why things happen.
Right. But
most people don't live their lives just walking along going, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. We would never advance if that's the way we lived.
If there is an event that happens to us, we typically know the reason for it.
Well, that's not true.
If it happens to us, I can
give me an example of what you're talking about, because you threw a big generality out there just a minute ago. So that's why I'm refuting your generality. So give me a specific thing of what you're referencing, so that so we can actually move forward with the Friday the 13th.
Well, we could anyway, but you had to further this, and now ask for him. So,
I'm just asking you to clarify what you're saying. That's all.
Okay,
that's good radio.
So you're asking for an event. So
like an event that backs up what you were just saying.
Right. So let's say you're driving to work.
Yeah.
And you get into an accident. You run a red light and get pulled over. You speed. You're speeding. You cut somebody off. Something that could be considered an event. And your way of doing it goes, oh my God, I ran through that red light. I got pulled over by a cop because I walked under a ladder when I left my house today. My bad luck is starting. Or it's Friday the 13th. Bringing it to this. It's Friday the 13th. Bad luck is starting already. You're not taking responsibility for the fact that you were texting and not paying attention to the road, which led you to run the red light, which is speed, and got you pulled over. So that's what I'm talking about. There are always an explanation. Like, we know what caused whatever event or bad thing that happened to us. What we're not willing to do is accept that we did something that caused that to happen, because by our own, and I'm not saying it's intentional. I mean, it's not anything that we're doing on purpose, but we have to find a rational explanation beyond it's our fault, or beyond it was our responsibility and we did not do what we were supposed to do. They would have.
I get it. So mankind likes to displace blame.
Yes, very much so.
Yes.
Very, very much so.
Right.
All right. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I don't care.
Good enough.
We're moving on.
Yeah.
So the thing that I found interesting, and this has to do with the fear of the number 13, because people, there's no 13th floor, even though there is. It's the 14th floor, but there's no number 13 on any elevator out there. And I always got that. Like, I always expected it, even though I knew, again, the 14th floor is actually the 13th floor. They just didn't number it that way. But
how would you explain that then?
Well, see, that's what I'm going to do.
I mean, are you going to say it's an irrational fear?
It is an irrational fear. It's an absolutely irrational fear.
Because going hand, I just want to point this out. So going hand in hand. So while you're talking about elevators, this all goes hand in hand with this. So there's no like gate 13 at airports. They refrain from that. There's in hospitals they try to do away with like room 13. So that like the number 13 has been jinxed for a long time. So, but it goes hand in hand with what you're saying about the elevator. I just want to throw out that there's more examples than just the elevator.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I was just using that as an example. I got that they did that, and that they're 13 was bad luck, but I didn't understand why. And I was reading this thing on Western cultures, and how the number 12 was like a number of completeness. And they have a bunch of examples, like 12 days of Christmas, 12 months, and 12 zodiac signs, the 12 labors of Hercules, 12 gods of Olympus, and 12 tribes of Israel. So its successor, 13, was like numbered as the exact opposite. And again, because one of the examples was obviously you don't have 13 guests at the dinner table taken off of the Last Supper, because that was bad luck. Apparently, the ancient code of Hammurabi, did I say that right? They omitted a 13th law from its list of legal rules. Nobody understands why. They think it might be a clerical error, but superstitious people obviously think that they wanted to avoid bad luck. But and I as soon as I read the thing about the 12, I always went back to the phrase that I always use when golfing. Your worst.
You don't
day
want to
of
shoot
golf,
a 13.
Well, no. Your worst day of golf will immediately follow your best game.
Well, that's a superstition, but right.
Well, exactly. But that's the same thing. 12 was the number of completeness. So 13 has to be the number of chaos, of bad luck and stuff like that. And there's a number, there is a phobia, obviously, for the number 13, triskaidekaphobia. I'm just going to type of thing. Yeah. So, even though I don't know if this is exactly when it started, but obviously in Dan Brown's book, The Da Vinci Code, they're talking about, the Knights Templar getting arrested in 1307 and, crucified. Did in fact happen on Friday the 13th.
Mhm.
And it, from going way, way, way back that long, I mean, it almost seems like that was the catalyst, because I'm assuming that that type of day, just like 9/11 does now, still holds an anniversary date. So as the
Mhm.
years went on, it's like, oh, it's Friday the 13th. This was the day that all the Templars were crucified. Let's have this is a very bad day. Well, then the bad day turned into the day of bad luck, and so on and so forth. And I think every bad thing that happened, that has happened on Friday the 13th, has only gone to reaffirm it to like the next generation or the next bad thing that happens. So I mean,
So you're saying it's all just poppycock, throw it out the window.
I do believe that is my conclusion, yes, but I'm saying it in a very drawn out way because we have another half hour.
I get it.
I just want to say, and nobody who listens to the show for a long time is going to find this at all surprising. I especially being a part of the paranormal field, I have lost all superstition, like all superstition. Cena still laughs at me anytime she mentions retrograde because all I do is roll my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know
that is a fact. I have seen you do that, so
and I will continue to do that forever. Yeah. Because retrograde is an optical illusion that doesn't actually exist in the physical realm. It is people's belief that makes it what it is. I am not one of those people. So I just want to say, like, the black cat, the ladder, the mirror, step on the crack, break your mother's back, are all superstitions that I couldn't care less about. But that doesn't mean that I don't understand the fact that other people do. And it makes me roll my eyes. So, I mean, do you believe in the bad luck of Friday the 13th?
No, because as I stated earlier, I look forward to Friday the 13th because I think that is. I think so. Here's what I think. I think everything that we do, we give intention to, right? I think that there's perfect examples of locations, of haunted locations that never were haunted, ever. Yeah. It had no occurrence of haunting in any way, shape, or form, but it had the look. And somebody with the intention to make money on it, let's just say, because that's a man.
Point house.
Obviously, that's a thing, right? It's a haunted house. Get your paranormal team. Come on out. You're not going to believe it. The place is off the charts, right? And so here's your paranormal team response. Holy shit! I got a location that's off the charts, and it's only 8 hours away. $300 a night. We need to go. Right. That's exactly what the paranormal team response is right there. So everybody trucks up, everybody gathers up all their gear, everybody pitches in $50 in road trip, and you go to this location that has absolutely no history of haunting in any way, shape, or form. But somebody says it does. Right. And so what happens? You go there, you show up, you're expecting something to happen. And as people that we respect in the industry, like Grant Wilson has said, when you walk into a location, you're expecting something to happen. You're going to find, you're usually going to find what you're looking for. And so you get a location where everybody's showing up and everybody's bringing the intention that it's haunted and everybody wants to have an experience or document something or catch an EVP or catch a glimpse out of the corner of their eye or get a photograph or whatever. Whatever the case might be, a piece of dust blows by the camera and, oh my God, look at all these spirits roaming around. The place is haunted as hell. All of that intention over time creates a haunted house. We've had this discussion on the show frequently and at length. So I think that over time, especially going back in history, let's just say that it started with the Last Supper. That's between the Last Supper and the crucifixion of the Knights Templars. You've got 1,300 years. So you've got 1,300 years of faith-based intention that the number 13 is bad. Then you go into Valhalla and the Norse myths that 13 is a bad number because 13 was associated with Loki. And Loki, obviously, while he's entertaining on Disney Plus,
Marvel, yeah,
was not. That is not who Loki is. Once again, that is man. Hollywood producers taking the trickster god in Norse mythology and turning him into this funny, look what I can do type of thing for entertainment value. But that's not what Loki was to the Norse. So you've got that unlucky number 13. You've got the persecution of the Knights Templars in 1307 or 1308, something like that.
1307, yeah.
1307. So you've got all of this number 13 association, right? So if you really take a look at it over time, all of this intention and everybody's saying, holy shit, the 13 is an unlucky number. How can the number 13 then not have kind of its own energy, like it has its own thing? Do I believe that? No, personally, I don't. Do I think it's possible that happened? Yeah, absolutely, I do. I think it's totally possible that the number 13 really is unlucky. Not that it ever should have been. It could have been the number 16. It could have been the number 2. It could have been the number 25. It just so happens that some things, some negative things, or things that we consider as mankind to be negative, happened on the 13th. Occasionally, that was also associated with Friday. And now somebody who thought they were witty put together the fact that, oh my God, Friday and 13, holy shit, that's like 2 negatives, 2 bad things, whatever. So I do think that Friday the 13th, I'm with you. I think Friday the 13th is a crock of shit. As far as, is it like, do you need to be scared and worried and like stay at home and not be on the road or not go to work or not, travel? Like, one of the big things that I did in my research that I was reading was there's so many different countries that believe, especially the East, that believe that like you never start travel on the 13th, or especially on Friday the 13th, but that you don't start vacations on the 13th. You don't get married on the 13th. You don't do you just don't do anything on the 13th. So isn't that still to this day feeding into the energy pool for the number 13? And I use the number 13 here jokingly as an entity, even though it's not. It's just a number. But isn't that feeding into it? And isn't it creating, at least in mankind's mind, the fact that 13 is negative because we just get continually perpetuated by the negative connotation of it? So do I think Friday the 13th is an unlucky day? No, I don't. Do I think it's possibly a day of something like a thinner veil, like Halloween, because of the fact that all that energy has been pushed into the number 13? Yeah, I do.
So
My own personal beliefs.
You're going to laugh at me when I say this.
Sure,
but well, thank you. So you're pretty much saying, and I can see this, is that the global consciousness, which is something we both love,
it's a real thing, right?
It is a real thing. 100% agree.
Yep.
And I will say 100%, unlike you, that global consciousness is a real thing. So we have, as a global society and a global consciousness, thrown our thoughts and beliefs that Friday the 13th is a negative day, and therefore we have inadvertently created a bad luck poltergeist that only comes around on Friday the 13th. Not the 13th of any month, but Friday the 13th of whatever month it happens to fall on.
Right. So 1 to 3 times a year, because
right.
that's when Friday the 13th, that you're going to have one for sure. You're never going to have more than 3. So,
right. Friday the 13th to me, it is the same as Mondays. They're jokes. They're
they suck. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, anytime that I go into a customer and they're having what can obviously just be a bad day, I mean, I can tell. when customers are having a bad day. Either they're in the midst of an event or it's just a look on their face. And I always say, well, it is a Monday. And they immediately know what I'm talking about. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just a joke to me. It's again something, to move blame aside and blame that, for them having a bad day because it's Monday, as opposed to them, not being fully focused at work because they're just coming off the weekend, which is what I know it always is. But there have been, and see, this is what I meant earlier, when I said another event happens on Friday the 13th that then moves it into moves it to the next event. But there's a list here of things, and I wanted to get this out before the end of the show because I think it's interesting. But I think it's just a coincidence. You probably saw all of this list too. You probably have more than I do, but like the German bombing of Buckingham Palace,
Right.
Friday the 13th, the murder of Kitty Genovese.
Right.
I don't even know who that is.
Do you want to know who that is?
If you can do it quickly. I mean, it's
sure.
I'm assuming
So
she's either an actress. Oh, it's a bartender?
Nope. Yeah, it was a bartender in New York in the 60s, and this actually is used in psychology now, and taught in classes, and it's in textbooks now, of the Genovese, like the Genovese syndrome. So what happened was this lady was raped and stabbed on Friday the 13th in New York in like 1965, and
64.
there were 30 some witnesses to the event that happened. But every single person thought somebody else was going to do something about it or step up and help her.
And nobody did.
Right, exactly. And nobody did. And so it's become historic in the fact that that's why it's even listed, is what I'm saying. It was a horrible event that happened, obviously, to this woman. But it lives to this day because of that fact that all these people witnessed it, yet nobody stepped up to help her and nobody reported it because they thought somebody else would take care of it. So that's why.
Yeah,
that's my 1 minute dissertation on that.
No, I get it. I absolutely get it. So a cyclone killed more than 300,000 people in Bangladesh in 1970. That was Friday the 13th.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah.
300,000 people. That's a big one.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Chilean Air Force plane in the Andes disappeared in October of 1972. Tupac Shakur died, I guess.
He died on that day. Yeah.
Yeah, he died on Friday the 13th, 1996. And obviously the crash of the Costa Concordia cruise ship off the coast of Italy, which killed 30 people, happened in Friday the 13th of 2012. Nothing bad has happened since. Do you have
that we know of?
I would say that's where my list ends.
Yeah, that's pretty much where mine end too. Was the cruise ship in Italy that sunk? And I remember that actually. That was like big time news. Like they were showing live feeds of this cruise ship sinking. Yeah, people drowning and stuff, and you get eaten by sharks, and because it's that's what's important, right? I mean, to media,
you got to get the coverage. Yeah.
You got to get coverage, right? You got to always get out there for all the bad stuff, and then glorify it. So,
well, I was just going to say, I mean, why get out there and help them when you could film nobody helping them?
It's exactly. Yeah, I've said that more than once, and I'm sure I'll say it more than one more time in my lifetime. So,
sadly,
that's the same thing with I years ago, one of my final years when I was driving before the accident, I was sitting at a stoplight and I was witness to a really horrific accident. And I got out of the car. I jumped out of the truck and ran to the car that checked on the one lady and made sure that she was kind of stable, and ran to the other car that was the worst of the two vehicles. And I was the only person of the 5 people who were in that intersection. I was the only person trying to administer first aid and keep the people in the other car calm, in as bad as it was. Everybody else was on their effing telephones filming it. Every person that was there, except for me. I didn't even grab my phone when I jumped out of the car. It wasn't even a thought of, I need to grab my phone. I should have had it to call 911, but it was just a human response, instantaneous response of, I need to get out and help these guys. That was the first thing that popped into my head. These people need, this was bad. I mean, it was bad. These people need help now. I need to get out there to make sure that they're going to live. That was the thing that jumped into my head, and I ran out there, and that was what my goal was. But everybody else who was there, I was screaming at these 2 ladies to call 911 and stop effing filming the thing. And they were like documenting, the one lady's like, who's this guy think he is?
Yep.
Talking about me, trying to save these people's lives. Telling her to quit filming and call 911. So yeah, so that's where our society is ventured into those waters.
Not all society, but
not all society, right? I agree. There's a lot of beautiful things that happen in our world, and there's a lot of great things that happen in society. But regretfully, there are also those instances like what I just discussed. I do find it interesting, though, that there hasn't been anything written about Friday the 13th since the boat. So maybe that was the end of it.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. We've solved it. It's over.
It's over.
You're welcome. Like COVID, no longer a thing.
Exactly. COVID's over.
You're welcome, world.
Yep.
I am
another reason to listen to the show.
I am declaring Friday the 13th done.
Oh, God.
So I mean, did you look up anything on the 13th club? The 13 Club?
I did. I don't have it handy in front of me, but I can tell you that I love the fact that like why it was put together was to a group of guys that were like, yeah, you guys are overreacting. So they would start meetings off by like pouring salt off the table, walking under a ladder, kicking a black cat, breaking a mirror, and then
where's my initiation?
And then going into dinner, and they would sit 13 guys at the table, and they're like, come on, baby, bring it on,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's hilarious. What I found even more funny though about that is there were 4 sitting U.S. presidents that were a member of that club.
Yep. Chester Arthur, Grover Cleveland, Benjamin Harrison, and Theodore Roosevelt.
Yep.
Were part of the 13 Club. But yeah, they would dine on the 13th day of the month in room 13 of the Knickerbocker Cottage. And they would sit down for a 13-course meal with 13 guys at the table. Yep. Members would pass beneath the ladder, and a banner reading Morituri te salutamus, whatever, which is Latin for those who are about to die salute you.
I find that to be absolutely hilarious. I think, what I think happened there? I think there was so much 13 going on that the number 13 was just like, F it, man. I'm not even going to go there. Like these guys have encouraged every single superstitious thought that they could possibly get their hands on and put into one evening of dining. We're just going to sit back and laugh ourselves. That's what I think. That's why nothing bad ever happened.
So this club existed for quite a long time, 1827 to 1897.
Yep.
Was founded by a New Yorker, shocker, Captain William Fowler, who did it, as an attempt to remove the stigma behind the number 13. Not so much Friday the 13th, but just the number 13 in general. But yeah, I love sarcasm.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I would do that. That would be something I would participate in, but I'd be interested to see now if you took, I'm not going to say if you took the younger generation, because I think they'd kind of gravitate towards the number 13. Because if, while looking up stuff for the show, like I clicked on this link that was like, why the number 13 has been a boom for the tattoo industry, and so I went there and kind of read that as to, the number 13 being this, oh yeah, we're going to get inked the 13th, blah, blah, blah. So I'd be interested to see if you took a group of, 55 to 65-year-olds and said, would you participate in the 13th club? I'd be interested to see how many would say that they would, or how many would have some reason, some personal reason to be like, I don't think so. I think I'll stay away from that one.
I think that you would find probably half and half. I don't think any of it would be based on superstition. I think half of them would be like, yeah, that's hilarious. And they'd be like, yeah, I'll be a part of that because that's just funny. And I think the other half is, and I think the other half would just be, I have better things to do with my time than sit around, with 12 other guys and eat a 13-course meal and walk under a ladder and kick a cat. Even though that
right, and pour salt. Yeah. Spill salt.
Spill salt over their shoulder and stuff like that. Yeah. So I mean, I would join.
Well, spilling salt is bad luck. Throwing salt over your shoulder is good luck.
That's what I thought. I thought that I might have had that wrong. Yeah, spilling salt.
Yeah. Spilling salt is bad luck. Throwing salt over your shoulder is good luck. So.
Gotcha. So yeah, Friday the 13th. Bad.
We haven't touched on the true, like, the one great thing that came out of Friday the 13th was the creation of one of the greatest slasher franchises ever.
Knew you were going to bring it up. Yeah.
How can you not?
Honestly, I have seen the original and I've never seen another one.
I can't say that I've seen them all. I think there's like a dozen of them.
At least. I mean, they
yeah, I would think so. I've seen like Jason versus Freddy. Pretty good. Jason Goes to Hell. Pretty good. There's one where Jason goes to outer space. Pretty stupid. The original and the first, like, in the second one, pretty. I mean, for an original kind of slasher, scary movie flick, Halloween flick, pretty good. I mean, again, you got to go back in time. Special effects now are, I mean, watching it now after going and seeing the second, the Exorcist movie, the new one that I just saw, or seeing The Nun 2, and seeing special effects that are CGI generated on green screen backgrounds, and then going back and watching something like Friday the 13th, you just got to take it in context. You got to take it in at the time when the movie was made and appreciate it for what it is. Because movies like that obviously are stepping stones for other things down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to say, Hollywood doesn't make a dozen movies in a franchise if there's no money to be made. They don't make movies to lose money. They make movies to profit. So with that said, it's,
yeah, I'm just not a huge slasher type. Like, I've never seen Saw, any of the Saws.
Saws are good because they're psychologically disturbing, kind of like The Shining was.
Yeah,
but they're graphic.
I'm not.
I mean, they're graphic
in being psychologically disturbed when I pay $15 for a movie.
Yeah. But more like the Marvel guy.
I am actually, or just comedies. Honestly, I don't know when the last movie I saw in the theater was, but because now I just have to wait like 2 weeks and it's streaming. So and I already pay for that.
Except for John Wick 4, by the way. I want to point that out because I'm pretty pissed off at the fact that John Wick 4 isn't out on streaming.
I still haven't seen that.
I haven't seen that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I've seen 1, 2, and 3 now multiple times in anticipation for 4, and it's still not streaming, and it's been out of the theaters for a long time. So for the Hollywood executives that are listening to this, get off your asses and release John Wick 4 to the streaming platforms.
Well, since we're talking about other movies now,
it's an open forum now with 9 minutes left because I'm pretty much done with Friday the 13th. I've said everything I can.
I do want to give a special recommendation to a movie that follows like Friday the 13th that I think goes very underappreciated, and that is a movie called Behind the Mask, the rise of Leslie Vernon.
Yep.
And I think I showed that to you, but
you did actually.
It was a movie that was shown to me, and I immediately went out and bought it because I just enjoyed it so much. And the whole thing is shot with almost like the found footage type thing,
yep. Handheld camera type deal.
Exactly, but not as a found footage film. It basically follows a documentary film crew who's following this guy who is trying to become the next Michael, Jason, Freddy, and it's based on the cinematic universe that Freddy, Jason, and Michael all really existed, but that they were normal human individuals who were exceptionally good at killing people and creating this legend based on that. And so this guy wants to create his own legend and his own like mythology, and he's allowing this documentary crew to follow him as he sets it up. And Robert Englund is in it, so they actually, not as Freddy, he's actually the guy trying to stop him. So that's interesting. That obviously Freddy Krueger, the actor that played Freddy Krueger, is the good guy in this one. But it's amazing. It actually that Zelda chick from the Poltergeist, she's in it. This house is good. Yeah. She's in it. It's a good time. I think whoever, if anybody wants to go out and either buy it or find it on the internet or something, you will not be disappointed.
I think you might find it streaming for this month because there's a lot of good movies that I just pulled up, like some old classic type of Halloweenish type movies that are streaming right now for the month of October that I normally don't see, like Phantasm. Phenomenal. I love Phantasm. And I haven't seen it forever. And I'm like, man, I'd really like to see Phantasm. And last night after you left, I happened to be going through Peacock for something, and I'm like, and it says, Halloween spectaculars, and I'm like, so I clicked on it and I'm like, well, let's see, just out of curiosity, what's in there. And third movie in was Phantasm, the original from 1975. I'm like, yes, put that in the favorites list because I'm watching that here in the next couple of nights because I haven't seen it forever and I absolutely love that movie.
So, let's just say top 3 Halloweenish type movies for you.
Going back in time, like classics.
Any movie you want.
Okay. Hellraiser. I'll put Phantasm in there. My top 3 can change. It depends on my mood. But for right now, I'll say I'll put in Hellraiser, disturbing movie. I'll put in Phantasm just because I absolutely love certain scenes in that movie. Like they're just absolute classics, and I still talk about them to this day. And the movie was made in 1975. And then I would have to say either let's just say The Exorcist, the original.
So this is horror movies.
Good storyline.
Those aren't necessarily
Halloween. Well, for me, I'm going Halloween where, like, scare, like Halloween to me is scary. It always, like, that's the way it's always been for me. Like Hocus Pocus, great movie, love the movie, great Halloween movie, but it's funny. It's not scary, and so for me, Halloween's always been about being scared.
Gotcha.
Well, and I understand there's other aspects of Halloween, like bobbing for apples and going out with your friends and, getting candy and stuff. But where I grew up, there were people like their sole purpose, and this was mine too as an adult, was if you're going to come to my house to get candy, you're going to piss your pants. And that's the neighborhood I grew up in, and that's ingrained in me. And we used to do that, and we followed through with that. I mean, people would stand across. There were kids who would stand across the street from my house in Lindstrom, and they would stand across the street from my house and point at the house and yell stuff and not come over.
What would they yell?
They'd be like, "Watch out! Look out! Look at that guy!" You know, and they would stand there and like warn other kids who were coming across, and the other kids couldn't give a shit less because they were just excited to be going out and getting candy, you know, until they got scared. Because I would have friends that would be over, and there would be a group of us, and you know, we'd do it up.
That's very mean.
Well, Dave Schrader used to be just down the street. It was a competition because Dave's ex lived in the same development that I lived in, and so he was right down around the corner, and he would put a big production on at their house. So it was like the 2 houses out of 99 houses in our development that were like known. Like people would actually talk about it during the year, and would like drive from like Forest Lake to come out to Lindstrom to come to our houses for Halloween to trick or treat in our neighborhood. So, you know, it was fun. I mean, that's got that. And so growing up, that's what it always was for me. So as still following it and carrying it that forward, I'm going to say those 3 are like Halloween horror movies that are on my bucket list of movies I want to watch during Halloween.
I understand.
Hocus Pocus gets an honorable mention. The Shining gets an honorable mention. The Shining is a fantastic movie. So,
well, Hocus Pocus is my number 1. I have to watch it every Halloween. Have to.
Great movie.
It is a great movie.
Fun movie though.
Not right. Not a huge fan of number 2. So I don't think I'll watch number 2. I'll definitely watch number 1. Trick or Treat is
Trick or Treat, good movie.
Which I just happened to see is on streaming.
It is streaming this month. Yeah.
Yes. So I was really excited about that because I think I own it. but I have. But I
in your library, you'd have to spend a little time searching through the shelves to see if it's up there.
I think I wanted it. I don't know if I pulled the trigger or not, but it is a really good movie just in general. And I really don't have a number 3, you know, that fits into Halloween. I mean, obviously I just mentioned Behind the Mask. Love that movie. I'll watch it all year long. Or any time of the year, I should say. So, I mean,
The Toxic Avenger.
That's not a Halloween movie, but I do own it.
Yeah. I saw it's streaming this month too for Halloween.
As it should. What about Poltergeist?
Haven't seen it forever. Yeah, Poltergeist, classic movie.
No. I didn't say Poltergeist.
Okay.
I said Poultrygeist.
Never saw it, but I'm sure you own it.
I don't.
It's got to be like that turkey movie that you like.
Well, that's Thanksgiving.
Or Thanksgiving, yeah.
Thanksgiving. No, no. Poultrygeist is actually made by the same people who did Toxic Avenger, Lloyd Kaufman and whatnot. And as you can imagine, it's like a phantom chicken who goes around and kills people in a fast food restaurant. And so, and all of the,
I'll look it up. It sounds like my kind of like 3 a.m. type of movie.
It's amazing, Dave. You're gonna love it. But like
Attack of the Killer Donuts.
all of the characters are named after restaurants. So like the main character is Arby. Like there's a Wendy in it. I think they have. His name is either BK or like he's like the king or something like that. So yeah, all of the, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, that's our show.
You're welcome for the movie recommendations. For Halloween.
Yes, you are. So we'll be out here next week, obviously, with Jody Jacobson. Looking really forward to that. Really looking forward to that. So yeah, that does it for us. We will be here next week with bells on. Maybe some garlic, not sure. But until then, stay healthy, stay safe. We want to see you back here. Everyone, have a great